Hi folks, how you doing? It's James, JT at the Movies, back here again for another Debriefing 007 episode. This time we're going to take a look at James Bond's third big screen adventure, 1964's Goldfinger. So, on the back of the success of From Russia with Love and Dr. No, the previous two entries into the series, the producers knew that they had a hit character on their hands, and of course wanted to go bigger and go better with the next instalment advertised, which was Goldfinger. This one was the first one when it came out to really achieve what we now consider to be like blockbuster status, and it was also a real sort of turning point for the franchise where a lot of the staples and a lot of the elements and almost the cliches you would expect of a James Bond film were really sort of cemented and sort of formed in this one. You know, we've got things like Q Branch and the gadget-laden car and sort of like the way that the plot itself unfolds, and you know how the ladies are sort of integrated into Bond's story and all that sort of thing. This film is really used as a template for pretty much all the films to come, and it's used as the one that they sort of set as the standard, as it were. I'm not really mad on it, to be right honest, and I hope you'll sort of hear me out. It's never been one of my favourites. I do enjoy it. There's only two films in the Bond franchise that I don't enjoy, and if you've seen my ranking video, you know which two they are. I enjoy this film as a Bond film, but it's just not my favourite in the series, and I'll sort of come back to that in a little bit. But let's sort of recap the plot. So, after an explosive pre-title sequence, we find Bond in Miami, put up in one of the best hotels by orders of M. Bond's there thinking he's maybe got a bit of respite and a bit of R&R, but Felix Leiter turns up saying that actually M's put him there because he wants him to surveil international jeweller and gold dealer Auric Goldfinger, because they believe that he's up to no good. So when Bond begins surveilling Goldfinger, he finds out that he's actually cheating at cards with one of the other hotel guests, and the guest is determined to win his money back, so keeps coming back every day to play him at another hand of cards, and keeps losing disastrously. Bond soon realises that Goldfinger's companion, Jill Masterson, is actually helping Goldfinger to cheat at cards through the use of binoculars and an in-ear radio device. She's actually telling Goldfinger the other chap's cards so that he can draw accordingly and always win the hand. Bond puts a stop to this and has a quiet word with Goldfinger over the radio device and basically says, let the chap win his money back or I'll get the police onto you. So Goldfinger does that, and Bond then seduces Jill. Goldfinger's not happy about that and sends his personal assistant / hitman Oddjob, who we've not actually met yet, to kill Jill while her and Bond are sleeping. Bond gets knocked out, he comes round, Jill's dead on the bed, painted gold. It's the famous image of the Golden Girl. So we're back in London now, and M gives Bond a bit more detail as to what's going on and why they wanted to look into Goldfinger. And it turns out that the government have some concerns as to how Mr. Goldfinger is moving his gold supply internationally. They believe that he's doing something illegal, they just can't prove it, so that's what Bond's task is. Bond meets up with Goldfinger at a local golf club to try and sort of case him out a bit more under the guise of basically wanting to do business with Goldfinger. The British government give Bond a bar of gold from a Nazi hoard from the Second World War and sort of give it to Bond to use as leverage to sort of try and get Goldfinger to open up a little bit. They play a round of golf where again Goldfinger tries to cheat, but Bond has the upper hand and manages to humiliate Goldfinger for a second time, and we're only in the first act of the film at this point. Goldfinger gives Bond a warning, and it's at this point that we're properly introduced to Oddjob, and he's got the bowler hat with the metal rim, and he throws it, it cuts the statue's head off. It's, you know, a scene from, you know, sort of pop culture, sort of legend, really, isn't it, that? Like I say, Goldfinger gives Bond his warning, stay out of my affairs, this is the second time we've crossed paths, don't let me see you again. Of course, Bond follows him out of the country, and we end up in Switzerland. Goldfinger has his metal works there where he's, you know, smelting down his gold, And basically it transpires that the way Goldfinger is illegally getting his gold out of the country is that he's having it melted down in the UK into parts for his car and then fitted into his car, driving the car through, cross country, and then and smelting it down again at the other end. In Switzerland, Bond encounters a lady called Tilly Masterson, who initially poses under a pseudonym. She doesn't want to give herself away, but she's the sister of Jill, the lady that was killed in the first act. She's there trying to kill Goldfinger. Bond obviously meets up with her and sort of starts to put two and two together, realises why she's there, and the two of them end up getting caught by Goldfinger's men. Unfortunately, Tilly is killed, and Bond is then taken to Goldfinger himself. Bond's tied to a table, and we get the famous exchange where Bond sort of, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. As the laser that, can point a spot on the moon, but at close range can cut through solid metal, is edging closer and closer and closer to James Bond. Bond reveals what he knows of Goldfinger's plan so far in a last-ditch attempt to be spared the laser. Goldfinger decides that actually Bond might know just enough about the plan to warrant keeping him alive. Again, he's knocked out and comes round on Mr. Goldfinger's personal plane, which is being flown by the captain and this film's leading lady, Pussy Galore. Yep, you heard that name right, folks. So, Pussy Galore is absolutely no-nonsense character to start with. She does not have time for Bond. Uses the famous line, "You can forget the charm, I'm immune," when Bond tries to sort of not put the moves on her as such, but maybe sort of, use some of his charm and some of his suave, sort of debonair style that he uses on the ladies to try and win her over and get a bit of information. They land in Kentucky at Mr. Goldfinger's horse ranch, where the CIA try and catch up with Bond again and sort of surveil the situation. They believe that Bond is well and truly on top of things, even though he's actually a hostage at this point, and sort of leave him be. It's there that we learn of Goldfinger's grand plan for the third act of the film, which is referred to throughout the film as Operation Grand Slam. Goldfinger plans to detonate a nuclear device at Fort Knox at the gold repository, basically rendering the gold useless if it survives the explosion. This will then skyrocket the price of his own gold. So he's got the local sort of, he's got countrywide mafia involved. And basically they've given him loans of $1 million, and he comes back to them and says, well, I'm going to do this and I can give you either your $1 million now, or we go ahead with my plan, and then the $1 million I owe you is actually worth several millions later. So all but one of the gangsters decide that they're going to go ahead with it. The one gangster that decides he's not going to go ahead with it is taken away supposedly to the airport by Oddjob, but actually he's taken away and assassinated and then put into a car crusher. The rest of them are still also killed. Goldfinger uses nerve gas that he plans to use on the security guards and the armed forces at Fort Knox to kill the mafia in there, basically like a test run. We then get to the third act of the film, and Bond has had some time to interact with Pussy Galore, and sort of tries to appeal to her better nature that perhaps this isn't the best way to go about things, and we're really left unsure as to what's happening. The plan looks as like it's going ahead as Goldfinger intended. Pussy Galore and her pilots fly over Fort Knox. They drop the gas. The armed forces and the CIA waiting for the siege all seem to drop unconscious and supposedly dead. Bond, who's still a hostage of Goldfinger at this point, along with Goldfinger and his men, approach Fort Knox, ready to put the nuclear device inside and blow it up. Goldfinger's intention is that he'll handcuff Bond to the device so that when it goes, Bond goes with it. But Pussy Galore's actually had a change of heart. She's swapped out the poison canisters for, basically dummies, and the CIA and the army and everybody's been in on it. They then wake up, a battle ensues. Bond ends up battling with Oddjob down in the vaults of Fort Knox. Oddjob tries to throw his hat at Bond, it gets stuck in the bars, and when he goes to retrieve it, Oddjob goes to retrieve the hat, Bond manages to electrocute the bars. The current passes through the metal into Oddjob's hat and fries him to death. Bond disarms the nuclear device as the CIA and the army retake Fort Knox. Goldfinger unfortunately slips away, but the CIA let Bond know that don't worry, we're onto it, we'll catch him, we'll sort it out. The end of the film, Bond's invited to go for a one-on-one meal with the President of the United States as a thank you for the hard work and the effort that he's just put in on this latest mission. Felix Leiter shows Bond onto a private jet which soon takes off. It's revealed that Goldfinger has actually taken over this jet with Pussy Galore, who's now been held hostage. Bond and Goldfinger engage in one final fight, which results in Goldfinger getting shot, and also the cabin of the plane losing pressure, Goldfinger being sucked out into outer space. Goldfinger's plane is golden harp, as Bond says. Bond and Pussy manage to crash land the plane, and then basically get down to business in the middle of the jungle where they are while still waiting to be rescued. Is pretty much how it ends. So, like I said at the start of this video, I'm not the biggest fan of this film. Growing up, this was my dad's favourite film, and my sort of first introduction to James Bond was really from Russia with Love and Goldfinger. Dad had the Connery ones on video, but these ones would always go on. I remember these going on so often at home, and I never really cared for either of them. I found a real taste for From Russia with Love, as I've become an adult myself, but I've never really got on with this one. I do like it. And like I mentioned at the start, there's only a couple of Bond films that I actually don't enjoy, and that's The World Is Not Enough and Die Another Day. I really think that they missed an absolute step with them. All the rest of them I enjoy on some level or another. But with this one, I just don't find the plot that engaging for me. Even though this plot is cut and paste into several other Bond films, I find the stakes in the other ones where they use this sort of plot to be more engaging for me. I think that this film has absolute pockets of genius, like, the Fort Knox raid is great. I do love the golf scene, and I love the bit with the laser, but I'm not too bothered about the whole, sort of stalking Goldfinger in Switzerland, driving through the Alps, and running Tilly Masterson off the road and all that bits, which doesn't really do anything for me. The pre-title sequence is great. And then when we get to Kentucky as well, I'm not really bothered for a lot of what's going on there. With Bond being kept sort of, in his cell underneath where Goldfinger's giving his sort of diabolical monologue sort of thing. It just all seems a bit silly. But then again, I suppose they're all a bit silly, really, aren't they? When you really boil it down. But I don't know, with this one for me, Connery's on point as James Bond. Gertrude is a good villain. Honor Blackman's a fantastic leading lady, and the rest of the supporting cast are great as well. It just doesn't do it for me, and I can't really put my finger on why. I suppose it's more just a sort of a subjective sort of thing, isn't it? Really, when you look at these films, and I absolutely understand why it's regarded by most Bond films as a top 5 one, but this one's well and truly in terms of enjoyment for me towards the bottom of the list, and I actually feel it's a real shame, because I feel I'm missing out on something that a lot of other Bond fans seem to get from it. But nonetheless, whenever I rewatch through the series, I pop it on, and I always go in sort of with the best intentions of wanting to get something new out of it and enjoy it. I have to say, the last couple of times I've watched it, I watched it sometime, probably about this sort of time last year, just on its own. I fancied watching it because I caught the tail end of it at the in-laws, and then obviously I'm rewatching them all now to do this series. So a couple of weeks ago I watched this and Thunderball back to back, and I had a reasonable time watching it. It's still not my favourite Bond film, and I don't think it's ever going to be, but it certainly can't be denied that it's a good film. So I would rate this film personally 6 out of 10. So there you are, folks. That's my brief recap and thoughts on Goldfinger. What did you guys think of it? I'd be interested to know. I would imagine that most people watching this will be quite a big fan of that, and I'd love to have a discussion. What is it about Goldfinger that absolutely makes it a top tier Bond film for you? Let's have a discussion about that down in the comments. If you've liked this video and you like videos talking about the James Bond movies, talking about collecting physical media, I'm a DVD and Blu-ray nut, reviewing films, unboxings, DVD hauls, that sort of thing, then please think about subscribing to the channel. And if you do subscribe, click that notification bell, and that way you're the first person to know whenever I do post a video. And above all else, folks, please continue to stay safe, take care of yourselves, and I will see you again next time for my review of Thunderball. Cheers!